thing that contributed more than anything else in our company was desperation. And I say that desperation is the best motivation. You saw a lot of companies come up very quickly and also disappear very quickly. And we said, what is happening is that there are people who can build very good businesses, but very few businesses go on to become a GOAT business, which is the greatest of all time business.
Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to ChaiNet, the agentic commerce podcast exploring how brands are building in an AI world. Today, I want to start with a question. What do a Harvard doctor, a goat farm in upstate New York, and a bar of handmade soap have in common? They're the origin story of one of the most unlikely brand building journeys I have come across. Beekman 1802 started at a kitchen table during the worst year of their founders' lives. No funding, no team, no plan. Just a neighbor, a herd of goats, and an idea that kindness could be a business strategy, not just brand value. Today, it's one of the most recognized goat milk skincare brand in the world. And the man who built it didn't do it with ads or a growth playbook or a VC check. He did it the way most people told him would not work, with kindness. So today we're going to talk to Dr. Brent Ridge. He's a physician, a farmer, founder, and author of Goat Wisdom. Let's call him to the stage. Hello, Dr. Brent. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here.
Likewise, I'm very happy that you're giving us your time for this podcast. So I would love to, start at the very beginning because, your origin story is genuinely one of the most unusual stories I have heard. So would love if you touch base on that before we dive a bit deep.
Of course. Well, as you pointed out in the introduction, my background is in medicine. I was in longevity and aging, and I had done research in the genetics of aging at Harvard, and then was on faculty at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. And then decided to go back to business school. And after business school, went to work at a company called Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia, which is an American lifestyle company, publishing media lifestyle company. And at the time, Martha was keen to create a new division of the company devoted to health and wellness. And so I was brought on board to head that new division. And my husband was working in advertising. He was an advertising executive and was an author. And in 2006, we were both around 30 years old, thought were at the pinnacles of our career, living in New York City, successful. And every autumn, we would go apple picking to someplace in upstate New York. We would open up the map and we would close our eyes, and wherever our finger landed on the map of New York State, we would drive there and go apple picking.
Oh,
And
wow,
so
that's very interesting.
yeah, leaving things up to chance. We always left things up to chance.
Right.
And in 2006, our finger landed on this little town in the center of the state called Sharon Springs, New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tiny town, a population of 547 people. So we got in the car, we drove up there, we did our apple picking. And on the way out of town, we saw this farm, and it said it was the Beekman farm. It was built in the year 1802. And we thought it was a museum because it was just so perfectly positioned on the hill and beautifully maintained. And so we pulled in the driveway, and there was a for sale sign in the yard. And so on our way back to the city, this is like a 3.5-hour drive back to the city. On our way back to the city, we convinced ourselves that we needed to buy this farmhouse and to use on the weekends. That's
Wow.
That's how, how you are when you're young and you think you're super successful, you can accomplish anything. And so we cashed in everything that we'd ever saved, took out $1 million mortgage, and bought this farmhouse that we were going to use on the weekends. And one weekend we came up a little bit later in 2006, in the winter of 2006, and there was a note in our mailbox from a local farmer who had heard that these two New York City guys had bought this farm. And his note said, I grew up in this area on a dairy farm, and I have a herd of 100 goats. I'm losing my farm. Could I please bring them to your property to graze? Otherwise, I'll have to sell my herd. And so We met with him. We saw how much he loved these animals. They were his life. And we said, absolutely, bring them. They can use the barn. There was another little house on the property. You can stay in that house. And we thought it would work out great for us since we were there infrequently. He could keep an eye on things while he was,
Right.
taking care of his goats. And we say that was the original act of kindness that started Beekman 1802
Mm,
because a year later, the recession hit. My new division at Martha folded. Josh's advertising agency folded. And it was a real kind of oh crap moment because we had cashed in everything. We had this huge mortgage. And on top of that, now we had a homeless farmer and homeless goats that we had to figure out what to do with.
right.
And that's how we started. We Googled what can we make with goat milk because that's all we had literally was the goat milk.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and saw goat milk soap was an option. And so we started making bars of goat milk soap. And that's how Beekman 1802 started. Now that's almost 18 years ago, and we've sold
Right.
60 million bars of that soap.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And yeah, like I think you're right. Like sometimes, a small act of kindness goes a big way. And you're absolutely correct that because right before recession, you got in touch with the farmer and then he got the goats and he was using your barn. And then, of course, then everything aligned eventually. And that's super, super amazing. So, you said that you only had goat milk and that was the only, only thing you had, and then you had to figure out that okay, what can we make with this? I'm sure you must have tried a lot of things, right? Like when how did you land up on soap, and then how did you think that okay, this could actually be something?
Well, when we did that Google, and this is really how it happened. We Googled what can we make with goat milk. The first thing was cheese, goat milk
Hmm.
cheese. But to make a consumer product from the farm that was edible required a huge investment to become a grade A certified dairy. And we didn't have the resources to do that. And so the next thing on the list was goat milk soap. And we contacted a local soap maker Deb, who
Right,
was making olive oil soaps. And we said, "Oh, Deb, we heard that we could make goat soap using the goat milk." And she said, "Yeah, I can help you do that." And so we just started making the bars of soap and then thought, okay, we're going to make our website. So we learned how to code and make our website. This was,
right,
18 years ago. So it was not
correct.
as easy now and started selling the bars of soap originally on our website. And
Hmm.
of course, you know, 18 years ago, e-commerce was not what it is now.
Of course.
So we pretty quickly realized that we were not going to be able to pay off
Hmm.
the mortgage on the farm and invest in the business with the sales that were coming in on our e-commerce.
Right.
And so then we just sat down and thought, okay, we have the goat milk. We have this product that we created. And it was a wonderful, beautiful product. We had designed
Hmm.
the packaging. It was beautiful. And we
Right.
said, okay, where can we take this product where it does not already exist in the marketplace?
Hmm.
And you can find goat milk soap in almost any farmer's market around the world. It's, used in almost every geographic location.
Right.
And we said, okay, well, yes, you can find goat milk soap in these places, maybe in a small craft store or something like that,
Hmm.
but it did not exist in the luxury market.
Hmm.
And so we said, okay, that's a white space for us because we could take this product into the luxury market. And so because we had lived in New York City for a decade, we're very familiar with luxury retail in the city.
Right.
And so I went down to the city and in one day, I did cold calls on all the luxury department stores in
Right. I read
city.
that you went
Yeah.
into you cold called Henry Bendel, and you
Yes.
that
Well,
that
I did all of them. I did Saks, I did Bloomingdale's, I did Barney's, Takashimaya. I did them all. The one that
Hmm.
actually gave me the chance was
Hmm.
Henry Bendel, a
Hmm.
beautiful department store on Fifth Avenue. And they
Right.
said, if I will, we will give you a 3 by 3 table
Hmm.
on the main floor.
Hmm.
And if you will come in here and sell the product, we will
Hmm.
see how the customer responds. And this was all on consignment.
Right.
They said, if the customer responds and we see that there's traction, then we will bring you in as a product. And I
Right.
said, okay. And so
Mm.
every day for 8 weeks, I would get up every morning on the farm. I would drive 3.5 hours down into Manhattan.
Wow.
I would
Right.
set up my little table and I would
Mm.
stay there until 8 o'clock at night when the store closed. And then I would
Mm.
get in the truck and I would drive the 3.5 hours back to the farm. I did that every single day.
Wow.
And a couple of amazing things happened. One, being a physician, I knew nothing about sales. I still do not consider myself a great salesperson, but I watched all of the amazing salespeople, primarily women, selling on the floor of Henry Bendel.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, that's how they hook the customer when they're coming by, or that's how they tell the story. And so I
Right.
just watched and learned what they were doing. So that was the first amazing thing that happened. And then the second amazing thing that happened was that the beauty buyer from a store in the US called Anthropologie, national store,
Right.
came through Bindle just looking for new product
Oh,
ideas. And she heard me tell
interesting.
the story. And she said, you know what? This is a product that I think the Anthropologie customer would love. And she reached out a few weeks later and said, we want to bring you in. And that was our first big order, 52,000 bars of soap.
Wow.
And it gave us national distribution.
Mm.
And from that point on, we were kind of off to the races.
Amazing. So yeah, 8 weeks of hard work, of course, and every day driving for 7 hours and standing for 10 hours. Wow, that's some grit, right? And then, but of course, you're right. Then once you get signals, I would say it's not even about the revenue. It's more like once you get a signal that okay, there is someone like Anthropologie giving you a 52,000, 54,000 pieces order, that also builds up a lot of confidence, right?
Uh-huh.
So before moving down, I would love to talk about goat wisdom because I was checking out the book and sounds amazing. And this is, I think, these days, you founded the company 18 years back, right? That time, entrepreneurship was not it was something very different, right? Like nowadays,
Uh-huh.
I feel that with a lot of it's something which is wonderful, of course, starting something of your own, risking it, but also I feel that it's somewhere it's a lot more hyped than it was, right? Than it should be.
For
There's a
sure.
lot of that, there's a lot of thing going on. People think that being entrepreneurs is like really cool. That's the next big thing, and but it's a fact that I think like 1 out of 100 companies reach actually become successful, right?
Uh-huh.
So, what is that in goat wisdom which you want to teach people?
Well, the reason we wrote Goat Wisdom at this stage in our company is because what we realized, as you pointed out, when we started Beekman, entrepreneurship was not the sexy thing to be doing. People were very
Exactly.
aligned to building a corporate career. And what we saw over I would say, the past, decade, maybe 15 years,
Right.
I call it, we call it the shark tankification of entrepreneurship,
Right.
uh, where people somehow got this idea that if they had an idea, then all they had to do was go get someone else to fund their idea, and then it'd be successful. Like it
Right.
was just made to seem very easy.
Hmm.
And then, of course, with the advent of social media and the changes with e-commerce and whatnot, starting a business had never become easier. And the capital markets were such that a lot of people were throwing money into almost every entrepreneurial idea.
Right.
And so you saw a lot of companies come up very quickly, and also disappear very quickly.
Hmm.
And we said, you know what? What is happening is that there are people who can build very good businesses that can be even very lucrative, right, for themselves personally for a short amount of time. Some people go on to turn that business into a great business, which maybe not only
Hmm.
enriches them, but enriches, many, many employees and, whatnot.
Right.
But very few businesses go on to become a GOAT business, which
Yeah,
is a
absolutely.
greatest of all
Greatest of
time
all
business.
time. Yes.
Yes. And, and so we said, we always set out when we started our company to build that type of business, a business that it would become a legacy business and not only support ourselves, but support our team members and their families, and then even go on even after we were no longer capable of running the business. And I think that that requires a certain type of attitude and a certain foundation to the way you build your business, not for an exit, but for a lifetime. And so that's why we wanted to write the book to say, hey, yes, you can build these rapid businesses and turn them over very quickly, but it's just a different type of thing if you want to build a long lasting business. And because so much of social media and the sexiness of entrepreneurship
Hmm.
made people think, oh, there are 5 easy ways to do this, or the top 10 ways to whatever build your business. It just made people think about building a business in the wrong way. And so we just wanted to give our take on how to build a good business.
Hmm. Yeah, that's I think yeah, and that clearly shows what you've achieved, and it seems like a wonderful book. I would definitely get get it on my Kindle and for sure read it and talk about it in one of the sessions later. But
Sure.
I think it is something which people really need to hear right now. Like and you're right, like the Shark Tankification is happening all around the world, right? Be it in the US, be it in the UK, be it in India now. It's Shark
Yes.
Tank is on its fifth season in India, and now everyone wants to be a D2C brand founder.
That's right.
And
That's right. And what was interesting when we were writing the book, we were very fascinated about old proverbs and old sayings,
Mhm.
and thinking about why do these particular proverbs, why have they passed down from generation to generation, was because they have been tried and they have been verified that, oh, this is good advice, right? It's not a hack and it's not a temporary thing. These are things that have worked across many different cultures and many different time frames. And so in every chapter of the book, we start with a proverb and then apply that to creating a foundation for a goat business. So it's a goat wisdom to build a goat business. And
Right.
what we thought was very interesting was that the time that we were pitching this book to publishers, the first publisher who said we want this book was Harvard Business Review.
Hmm.
And to us, that was real validation because, of course, they see every business book idea, and their school is at the forefront of business thinking and logic. And for them to say, you know what, this is right. We have created over the past decade this kind of sugar filled idea of entrepreneurship. Maybe we should get back to the basics and teaching the basics of how to build a long lasting
Hmm.
business. So it kind of gave us not only a little extra credibility, but a little extra confidence that what we were saying mattered.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I think definitely you need that credibility, and then and the wisdom is something which is also getting lost along the way in the past decade. And as you said rightly, right? Like you did not raise funding for almost 10 years, if I'm not wrong, right?
Hmm. Right.
And that's I don't see anyone doing that in this decade, right? The moment you have even like i- initial signs of product market fit, like if there was a you know Beekman brand today and someone else was winning it, the moment they would have gotten that 50,000 soap order, they would have started going to investors. But in
Yeah.
your case, what was the thought? Like I know now looking back, it looks amazing, right? But I'm sure that you know you and your husband must have thought that okay, there's something like should we raise funding? Was this discussion ever? Did this discussion ever happen in those 10 years? And what was the thought behind not raising funding?
Absolutely. And I think we went into the growth of the business or the beginning of the business really committed to not taking on additional debt or taking in outside funding. And
Hmm.
our thought process there was more psychological, I think, than entrepreneurial. We had been these two guys at the top of their career, and then everything, like almost overnight, just unceremoniously just ripped out from underneath us.
Hmm.
And, we blamed the financial industry for doing that, right? Because they had created all of these, mortgage instruments and all of these inexpensive mortgages, and it
Hmm.
caused the collapse of the American financial system. And so we were like, we don't have trust in that.
Hmm.
And so when we started the company, we said we would not take any money, and we knew that it'd be slow, but we also had I would say our goal, what we were trying to achieve was very small. Like when we first started, we are like, okay, we just want to be successful enough to pay off the mortgage, and then we'll figure out what's happening from there.
Hmm. Right.
And then after we had that level of success, we're like, oh, okay, if we can just make it to $5 million and,
Hmm.
we'll be golden. Like we don't want anything more. Like we were just very
Right.
modest in our expectations.
Hmm.
And, to your point about grit, we worked really hard to figure out how we could do things and not pay ourselves a salary so that we could invest in the business. So we were living on a farm. We learned how to grow our own food. We
Right.
had the goat milk, of course. And so we were just, we were living hand to mouth and like investing back in the business. And
Hmm.
I think that what that did was it made us look at every penny that was coming in and out of the company. It made us make very strategic and frugal choices, and it also made us very, very creative about how we approached problem solving in the business, because we didn't have a lot of room for error. So
Of
we had to
course.
really rely. We relied on our creativity and our neighbors, and it wasn't until the pandemic hit that we were forced basically to take the outside funding,
Hmm.
because what had happened by that point in the growth of the company is that we had greatly expanded from the original bar of soap. We had really invested in research with the goat milk and how the nutrients from the goat milk could impact the microbiome of the skin and help build the skin barrier. So it
Right.
had really become a very scientific focused company. And we
Hmm.
were getting ready to launch in Ulta Beauty, which is the largest beauty store in the US. I think at that time it was about 1,300 stores.
Right.
And when you are getting prepared for that, it's very expensive because not only do you have to invest in the inventory to supply 1,300 stores, but you also have to pay for all of your fixturing in the stores, like all of your end cap units
Correct.
and each end cap unit is probably $40,000 times 1,300 stores. Plus, you have to build out your field team, so you're hiring people, so it's a very expensive endeavor. We were still all self-financed, and we were getting ready to roll out our big launch in Ulta Beauty was the February in which COVID hit and all retail stores closed.
Uh,
And
and this was after you've invested so much,
oh
like
yes,
40,000 into
it,
13,000
it,
for all the stores, and
the costs were sunk. The costs were sunk, and so and at that point in the pandemic, you really didn't know, has the world changed forever? Like, has retail changed forever? Will these
yes.
stores ever reopen? Like, you just
Hmm.
didn't know. And so we said, okay, if we are going to have any hope of continuing as a business, we're going to have to, take in outside funding to get
Hmm.
us through whatever period is coming because we had no reserve.
Right.
And so that's why we ultimately brought in our investing partner.
Of data going around the internet, people have been speaking about your brand, about the products, about a lot of things, and that's what the AI is training on for sure. So that's for the discovery part, and you're very right that in the social media era, it was easy to go viral. You would do something very odd and and very unexpected, and even if you're a small brand, you might be able to, like, if you're new brand, you might be
Yeah,
able to very easily compete. But yeah, but in the AI era, it actually might you might be absolutely correct that it might get more difficult for smaller brands to come in the place, and that's very counterintuitive because people are saying that now you can cheat LLMs by creating Quora posts and Reddit posts, and then they start recommending you. But I think that's for a very short while. That slowly things will mature, and then these LLMs will also know that, okay, what is real data and where it's just random messages.
right.
And if we talk about you know the other aspect of AI, right, where which is, let's say, support and sales and communication. You're already using, I think, face scanning tools and loyalty systems, which is pretty cool. Overall, where do you think that AI has actually helped, and where do you think, like, I'll give you a very small example. I was talking to an insurance company the other day, and they have like monthly subscriptions sometimes where you have to pay like a monthly fee to keep the insurance active, and in certain cases where the credit card fails, then they were deploying agents, like human agents, who would call the customers and say that, okay, your credit card got declined, please pay within the next 24 hours. So they said, okay, let's replace that with AI agents. Now they did that, but then the moment they did that, they saw that the response rate really declined like 80%, and there was people were not actually people thought, it's an AI, and they used to reject the call, like cut the call and block the number. So in your case, where do you think AI has helped you guys, versus where do you think AI you'd had to pull back because it just felt wrong?
Uh, I would say right now, where it's helping us the most is in marketing.
Hmm.
And the way we use it in marketing is that, say we have a new product that we're launching,
Right.
and we will put in all of the clinical studies that are done on the product, who we think that the product is for, like what demographic we're aiming for,
Right.
and really get it to help us more clearly define the product market fit and communicate that product to that person that we're trying to communicate to much more directly.
Hmm.
And, I would say what's great about AI in that setting is that it will give you many, many options,
Right.
and which then our team goes back and A B tests to see which ones are most powerful. Now, I'm
Hmm.
sure, I mean, and it is already happening that the AI can also do your A B testing for you. But right
Correct.
now, we're doing a mixture of human and AI, and then we lean into the thing that is testing the best. And so it has just shortened the time frame of doing all of that testing and getting the very best message in front of the consumer,
Correct.
and saving a lot of money, like from photo shoots, trying to determine what is going to be the best image.
Hmm.
It'll give us the guidance of what's going to be the best image. Then we just have to go and make the best image.
Right.
So it's taking a lot of the guesswork and the time out of that process.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a very solid use case, and you're right. Like, a lot of these things, especially with marketing, I think that's one of the first industries where we're seeing AI actually genuinely helping brands without, if used well and if used in the best way, then of course it is helping. Of course, there are there are brands which are now trying to produce a lot of AI slop, and then they get cancelled by our Gen Z. But yeah, but there's a fine line in using AI versus exploiting.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, I think right now the way we're using it, and I guess we're very sensitive to the idea of AI slop, and there is obviously a lot of it out there,
right.
is that we're using it to make our team members not necessarily faster, but better. Because what we found is that the AI, by virtue of how many options, how many iterations it can provide very quickly, it makes our team think differently. It makes them
Mm,
stronger in terms of the amount of ideas that they can look at. And sometimes even the AI won't have the actual thing that we end up doing, but it started the conversation in a way that would have never been started before.
mm,
And
correct.
so it has, I think, has made all of our team members stronger at the
Mm,
moment. Not replaceable, but actually stronger.
stronger. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's the best way to go, right? And that's, I think, it also shows in that's how you structure the company and the philosophy, right? That if there is something, let's use it and let's make it stronger. We're not thinking
Yes.
that, okay, we'll use it and replace two of our members with AI agents. We'll
Right.
make those two strong enough that they can do the work of 20, and then the brand can scale. That's
Right.
the
Right.
best way. That's the best way to use it. Amazing, Dr. Brent. Thank you so much. I have one final question before we end this podcast. Because you've written Moat Wisdom as well, and it's this is exactly what we like to do on this podcast. Get some wisdom from goats of the industry. So if there is a founder watching this, you know, uh, at midnight and they're in the middle of building something, but things
Mm.
are breaking, there's nothing happening, things are hard. What would you want them to walk away with from this session?
Well, I say that the thing that contributed more than anything else in our company was desperation.
Hmm.
And I say that desperation is the best motivation. And I think you have, as an entrepreneur, you have to make yourself desperate to be successful. Now, whether that means
Hmm.
you put everything on the line financially, or you put everything on the line emotionally, or, with your, family, you have to have that desperation because it's really hard. As you said, 1 in 100 companies take off. Like, you
Right.
have to want it. And if you so make yourself desperate, figure out what is that thing that's going to make you feel desperate, and that's going to be motivated to you.
Amazing. Amazing. That's super advice. Desperation is one of the most biggest driving factors. And yeah, like you're very correct. Like you need to be all in. You need to be all in to be successful.
Yep.
There's no way around it. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this. This is exactly the kind of conversation this podcast exists for. A doctor who moved to a farm figured out that kindness isn't soft. It's actually something you can build upon, and you're doing some amazing work. With For all our viewers, please see their story. That's a very different way of building a brand. I think a lot of people watching this need to hear the story today. And for our viewers, Goat Wisdom, Dr. Brett's book is out now. You can go and get it on Amazon. For our viewers in India, you can get it on your Kindle right away. Uh, and if this episode hit different for you, please share it with someone building something like now. Thank you so much, Dr. Brent, for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.